Mark A. Altman, Darren Dochterman, Ashley Edward Miller. 3 fans who became professionals and then became Trexperts. Inglorious Trexperts. Listen wherever you find podcasts or go to TrexpertsPlus.com.
Hey, this is Mark Altman of Inglorious Trexperts in the 430 movie. And if you're a fan of our podcast, you don't want to miss Deck 78, available now by subscribing at TrexpertsPlus.com. This is a bonus podcast full of great discussions about popular culture, film, and television. Here's a sneak peek.
Shatner is a guest star in one of the episodes.
Yeah, he's one of the villains, right?
Yes. And Roy freaked out because he didn't want the association between Sequest and Star Trek.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Look, for me, Shatner's one of the great ham actors of all time.
Of course.
He's just spectacular to watch, and you should be pleased he's here. He's not playing Captain Kirk, but it was, you had to placate that. And then the earthquake, that big Northridge earthquake.
Yeah.
It shut us down for a couple of days. We came back and we're shooting, we're setting up to shoot on stage, and somebody hits the lights for the production, and there's stuff floating in the air. The big particles of whatever. I don't know what it is. And then the stage door opens, and guys in hazmat suits come in.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
And they won't tell me what they're looking for. Oh, everything's fine. Why are you in that suit? Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I call Tom Thayer, and they won't put me through to him. So I shut down the show for the day. I said, we're done. We're going to stop for the day because I'm not going to be a part of poisoning everybody here. And I got called on the carpet for that. God, you guys should be giving me an award for this. I mean, nobody's going to get cancer. I cleared the place. But it was an interesting experience.
I remember being on the junket for it, and they made a big deal out of, this isn't science fiction. This is science fact. And, basically, and Roy is, he's like Jacques Cousteau. It's like, what?
Well, that's who Roy we were in debate. And we try to, sort of feather that at the end of the show with Bob Ballard saying, 30 seconds on something that actually means something.
Right.
And, there were people on the show who couldn't stand having him there. We're not doing public television. This isn't educational television. The battles.
Yeah.
It's a sad thing that Scheider was leery of being on TV, because that stigma doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But,
it was huge back then.
Oh, I know, I know it was. But huge actors are doing TV now.
Yeah, De Niro just was announced as a lead in a Netflix series.
Yeah,
did
Schwarzenegger's new show's debuting, Fubar.
Did you deal with Spielberg at all? Did he know he had this TV show on the air? Like, was he ever involved?
I didn't deal with him much. He was in Poland. He came back. He was. He devoted some time to us a little bit, but not to the degree you would like. I remember the first time he came into the writer's room and we're talking, and he's staring at Bob Ingalls. He said, "You were in the show last night." Good job. But,
so he was watching it. That's good.
So it wasn't commensurate with what he was getting paid.
No, but you know what? He's a guy. It's hard to argue with him because he literally knows everything about it.
Yeah,
he just does. I mean, it's a compendium of knowledge that maybe Scorsese knows more. I don't know, but
were there ever any edicts to shoot on location in the Dive restaurant in Century City?
Spielberg and Castleberry's restaurant.
That didn't happen.
That's really funny. Good fries. Did we? And then Roy had enough, and Michael Ironside comes in for the last season. Had you had enough? You were gone by then.
I was just there for the first. I was there for the first season. I moved it to Florida, ended the second season, and I went off to do other things.
Yeah.
I think I felt like the people at I'm guessing Amblin. The executives insisted on doing the show so they could walk to the set from the Amblin offices.
Sure.
They had a great facility in Florida that wasn't being used. It had all the things you want in a show about being underwater that you could access within 10 minutes of where you are, certainly within the zone, and shoot underwater. There's a place called Wiki Washi. I don't know if you guys know that, but there's a mermaid show there. It's crystal clear spring waters, and they have a theater underwater with, glass that must span 30, 40 feet and 12 feet high, looking out onto the water. You could have done so much there, but they didn't want to do that. It was it's a lot of hubris on the part of a lot of people who wear suits and ties.
Yeah,
that happens.
That's for sure.
So subscribe today at TrexpertsPlus.com and don't miss a single episode of Deck 78. Fire the rockets. Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, one of the co-hosts of Inglorious Trexperts. And if you're a Trek fan, you owe it to yourself to pick up the 50-year mission, the complete, uncensored oral history of Star Trek. It's available wherever you buy books, digital or audio. And speaking of books, check out my new book about the making of John Wick. They shouldn't have killed his dog. Also available wherever you buy your books. You see a pattern happening here? Well, what are you waiting for? Get on it. Welcome to the 430 movie. This is 6 Degrees of Star Trek Week. And it's a crossover episode with Inglorious Trexperts. You remember those great, when the Love Boat would show up at Fantasy Island, Happy Days would, Laverne Shirley would show up on Happy Days. Captain Picard would show up on Deep Space Nine. What?
Big Bird shows up on Mr. Rogers.
There you go. So this is like a crossover between two great shows that taste great together. It's 430 movie and Inglorious Trexperts. And this time we're going where no one has gone before. It's 6 Degrees of Star Trek Week. And of course, you get all your great 430 movie hosts with double the fun. And on Monday, Star Date 74.9. I don't know. It's Stephen Melching.
It's coming through now, Con.
On Tuesday, what we got back didn't live long. Darren Dochterman.
Don't tell me. Tuesday.
Don't tell me how to do it. It sickens me. On Wednesday, it's Muddalicious, Ashley Edward Miller.
You boys are in so much trouble.
And on Thursday, I've come for a piece of your action. It's Mark A. Altman. That's me. And we're here to bring you 6 Degrees of Star Trek. What does that mean? Because, of course, we've already done In the Shadow of Star Trek, which are shows, movies that were inspired by Star Trek or TV shows and things like that.
Or refer to Star Trek. Right.
But today we're doing 6 Degrees of Star Trek. That means it's Star Trek actors in other roles that they may have. We knew them as legendary explorers, boldly going on Star Trek, but they also boldly went into other films, some of them. And
with varying degrees of success.
That's right. That's right. And you'll see everybody's 6 degrees away from stardom. And in a way, we're all 6 degrees away from Star Trek. So guys, 6 degrees, we know the Kevin Bacon thing. How do we connect Steve Melching with Star Trek? Darren, go. 6 moves.
We connect Steve with liking the show a lot. And
I'll show you how this is.
I did appear as an extra in Free Enterprise with William Shatner.
Well, there you go.
Bing. One move.
And I've written episodes of shows with various animated shows with various actors from Star Trek.
There you go.
There you go.
So
only 1 degree.
Ashley Edward Miller wrote X-Men First Class, which starred James McAvoy, who was in
X-Men Days of Wine and Roses with Patrick Stewart. And that's how you get to Ashley. But you can get
Ashley Edward Miller has created a show that starred multiple Star Trek
what the
actors.
hell? Are you kidding? Michael Dorn, Andy Robinson, Jeff Combs, Anson Mount,
Tony Todd.
Thank you. I mean, how many degrees do you need? So there you go.
Oh, it's getting hot.
Thanks,
It's a lot of degrees. We're gonna need to beam out of here. And then Darren, let's see. Darren worked with Bob Wise on Star Trek: The Motion Picture with William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and the rest of the cast. Okay, that's 1 degree. No, that was easy.
Documents.
I think we did that pretty
And Mark
easily.
was banned from the set for many years.
Only Deep Space Nine. Only Deep Space Nine.
Oh my God, Deep Space Nine banned you? Why did they do that?
Well, because if you may recall, we did that cover story on in Sci-Fi Universe, Deep and Confused.
Yeah, originally, you didn't like it very much.
And then Chris Gore wrote this really hateful editorial about how bad Deep Space Nine was. And then, of course, the whole article was talking about how great it was and how people didn't realize. But then they just wanted to have nothing to do with any of us for many years. So anyway,
I still remember that you did that great cover with Frakes. Thank God it's over.
No, I can't believe it's over.
I can't believe it's over. That was the second issue of Sci-Fi Universe. First issue, the cover was not my idea. It was this really boring Star Wars cover. But the second issue, when nobody else cared anymore, I remember I was sitting looking through slides at Bender Goldman Helper, who was the PR firm, and I was just pulling a bunch of slides, and I came across this shot of Frakes from Parallels, the one where his hair is unkempt and he has the long beard. He's just about to die. And I'm like, this is fantastic. And wrote the cover line, I can't believe it's over. And it was one of the great covers. And that was a great issue. We had our Star Trek: The Next Generation board game. We had the 7th season episode guide. And it was terrific. I think that's when Sci-Fi Universe really became Sci-Fi Universe. It burned brightly for a short period of time.
Yes.
And it burned out when it was sold without them telling me. I feel like Don Lemon. I don't even like Don Lemon, but they sold it, and then they told me after they sold it. It was by Logan Roy sold it. I mean Larry Flint. So. And I remember we were working on the issue, and they said, "Oh, this will be your last issue." I said, "Why?" "Oh, we sold the magazine."
They sold it, and then they put Tom and Greg in charge of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because we're a quad. We're family quad.
The quads.
Oh my God, how great has the Succession been?
Oh, so funny, so good.
Oh, so good. It's on another level, isn't it? The writing on that show. Yeah. It's sensational. But Star Trek's very much in the zeitgeist right now. We just finished a season of Star Trek Picard season 3, which I think everyone on this podcast absolutely adored.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Very enjoyable.
Even now, after finally seeing episode 10.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I think we could say that about a Star Trek thing. So it's nice to be excited about it again.
It was so great. Speaking of, Star Trek actors, it was just such a delight to see that cast reunited, clearly having a good time, knowing they were making a strong episode, season of television. They all had great character moments. They got great send-offs that maybe they didn't have in the previous iterations. So it was delightful to see them all.
Well, Steve, there's this idea that Star Trek characters cast get typecast, right? That they're only known as these iconic characters they portrayed. Unless I guess you're Garrett Wong or somebody, nobody knows who the hell you are. But the characters on the characters on the important shows, the original Next Generation, these are all people that you could argue, oh my God, do people know who they are? And yet somebody like Shatner went on and did Boston Legal, and he did Big Giant Head, and he did Rescue 911, T.J. Hooker.
T.J. Hooker.
So, I mean, he was really well known for variety roles, and certainly you could say the same of Leonard. You could say the same of a lot of these characters. So it's a kind of a misnomer that the cast is just pigeonholed as these characters, isn't it?
Well, I think. I mean, it is definitely a danger when you're playing an iconic character week after week for years. It's very easy to get so closely associated with a specific character that it can be difficult to break out, and difficult for producers of other properties to have the imagination to cast them against type or put them in a role that's not Star Trek, or think that I don't want to attract a Star Trek audience. I want to attract a different audience.
Yeah,
well,
but now it seems
Shatner, because he started playing Shatner.
Right.
Or at least people's perception of Shatner. So he sort of transcended Kirk and became himself, which is a very odd thing to have happen.
Right.
Darren, don't you feel that, also somebody like Patrick Stewart, Star Trek really gave him the opportunity to do all these other things because, he was a terrific actor on the stage, Royal Shakespeare Academy, and, then, sort of was introduced to the world despite having been in I, Claudius and all these things. And then he emerges as this, really powerful star in Star Trek, and then goes on and does other things.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it all happened to him later in his life. He was in his early 40s when Next Generation started. So I think it snuck up on him a little bit because the story is that he didn't move out of his suitcase
basement
for the first season. He was expecting it to last, maybe a couple months, and then he would be hightailing it back home. But I think that finally he sort of embraced this destiny, and he did several other roles that are certainly noteworthy. But I think that he is forever branded with the Picard legend, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Ashley, I presume that you are not going to decide on the fly. You know what you have locked in what you're going to pick today. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So was it difficult to come up with this pick?
You know what? It was. And then I realized something, that the very things that you're talking about, kind of the limitations of some of the casts of some of the shows, and in terms of just being typecast and all that other stuff. And what would seem to be a rather limited filmography, really kind of placed this week firmly into the land of movies that are out of the box. And if there's one box I know how to be in, it is the out box.
Well, great. I can't wait to see what everyone picks. There's so many great actors and a few mediocre ones that are available to you. Many such journeys are possible. So we start, as we always do, on Monday with Steve Melching, who will kick us off.
Now, I know Darren is closely monitoring my pick. He shared with me before we started that he's really worried that I'm going to pick his selection.
Now, let me just interrupt. You did not tell him what you were going to pick. Darren does not know it. He's just worried that you might pick what he has in mind.
Yeah, so I'm keeping him in suspense a little bit, drawing this out. But so
you're luring him in.
My pick,
you're baiting it.
My pick is a movie. My pick is a movie that this particular Star Trek actor appeared in before appearing in Star Trek. So they had not yet had the opportunity to be typecast as a Star Trek character. It is. I'll just go ahead and drop.
Can I write it down?
Yeah, please.
I'm going to write it down on a sticky here. Right, let's see.
There are a lot of, I made a list. There's a lot of good movies and a lot of movies that I enjoy that either star or feature Star Trek actors in important supporting roles. So it's a pretty deep bench of good movies here.
Okay. So anyone else want to take a guess at what Steve is going to pick?
I these two guys, I know it's coming out of their mouths. Go ahead, Steve.
The guy in the hat killed the other guy in the hat. A writer writes, always. I'm talking about 1987's Throw Mama from the Train, featuring Kate Mulgrew.
You've got to get it through your thick head. I may be a lot of things, but I am not a killer.
You don't have to blow her brains out or anything.
Thank you. That takes the pressure right off.
She's old. She's got a bad ticker. All you got to do is jerk around a lot when you talk to her. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Lifts.
Evan, what the hell's going on out there?
We woke her up. Nothing, Mama.
Who's this?
This is Cousin Patty. He's going to be staying with us for a while. Isn't that nice?
You don't have a cousin Patty.
You lied to me.
Oh, geez.
Catherine Janeway
Wow. I did not get that right.
I did not either. What was your pick, Ashley?
I'm not going to say because it might be
somebody
Darren's
else's
pick
pick.
or my pick.
Okay.
Or
You want to know what? You know what I
pick.
thought you were going to pick?
Yeah.
Judgment at Nuremberg.
That was on my list. But I wanted to, I haven't recorded on my DVR. I haven't had a chance to revisit it. I don't know if I've seen the whole thing. I mean, it's like 3 hours long. And anyway, I'm sure we'll talk about it later. So Throw Mama from the Train is a comedy. That is not Darren's pick. It's not my pick. It's Breathing Easy. This movie was released in December of 1987. It actually has 2 Star Trek connections. So it's, it stars, of course, Danny DeVito, who also directed the movie. It was his second feature film as a director. Co-starred Billy Crystal, sort of at the height of Billy Crystal's stardom. It also starred Anne Ramsey as the titular mama. Anne Ramsey, of course, married to Logan Ramsey, who played proconsul
Claudius Marcus
on Bread and Circuses on the on classic Star Trek. So that's the secondary Star Trek connection by marriage.
Right.
Anne Ramsey was nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for this performance, as well as a Golden Globe. Danny DeVito was nominated for a Golden Globe as Best Actor for this performance. It was written by Stu Silver, who is primarily a television writer. The director of photography was Barry Sonnenfeld, who at that time had already done Blood Simple and Raising Arizona, and of course would go on to be a director himself on many huge movies like The Addams Family and Men in Black. I believe Darren has worked with Barry
on Addams Family 2.
Addams Family 2.
He also went on to write a delightful memoir that I highly recommend.
And the music was by David Newman, who would go on to do Heathers and the Bill and Ted movies and Galaxy Quest and Galaxy Quest. It was a modest hit when it came out. It was made for about $14 million and grossed about $58 million. It also starred Kim Greist from Terry Gilliam's Brazil as Billy Crystal's love interest.
More Greist for the mill.
And Branford Marsalis and Rob Reiner also had small supporting roles. It's a movie that was pretty popular in its time in the late 80s. It's sort of faded from memory, but I've always had a fondness for it. It's a dark comedy, sort of based on Alfred Hitchcock's classic Strangers on a Train, in this movie, Billy Crystal plays a frustrated novelist. He's frustrated because his ex-wife, played by Kate Mulgrew, stole his novel, his autobiographical novel, and published it under her own name. And it became a huge bestseller, and she became a celebrity author, while poor Billy Crystal was consigned to living in a crappy apartment and teaching a creative writing class at a community college. that's filled with a bunch of weirdos and misfits, including Danny DeVito. And they're all just terrible amateur writers. And Danny DeVito lives with his overbearing mother, played by Anne Ramsey, and really wants to kill her and get her out of his life, and comes to believe that Billy Crystal would like Kate Mulgrew to also be murdered, but in order to escape being arrested for the crime, they needed to commit these murders without having a motive. So Danny DeVito takes it upon himself to travel to Hawaii to attempt to kill Billy Crystal's wife, and hilarity ensues.
It's thrown up Mama from The Strangers on a train.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you, if we ever have the opportunity to interview Kate Mulgrew at one of our convention appearances, we're only going to talk to her about Throw Mama from a Train. We're not going to talk about anything else.
And Mrs. Columbo.
Mrs. Columbo.
And Mrs. Columbo, that's right. But everything else is off limit.
Kate, in this movie, Kate Mulgrew plays the villain, basically. She plays a really kind of nasty, arrogant character.
Just like on Voyager.
Is she convinced there's coffee in that nebula?
It's not a huge role, but it's a crucially important role in the movie, and I thought she makes a good impression. She plays the role well, but overall, just a movie I've always enjoyed. Just a fun, oddly sweet, dark little comedy. From
It's interesting because you mentioned that this was a really big movie that time has forgotten. And there are a couple of those Danny DeVito movies. His first movie, The Money Pit, was also the same thing. It was really big at the time, Tom Hanks. Again, no one talks about it. And then probably the biggest of all of them was Ruthless People, which was huge.
Yeah.
No one talks about that movie now.
Well, and he also did Hoffa, which was written by
but nobody talked about that then.
But it was a big Oscar bait picture of its day. It was written.
Would you say it was buried somewhere?
In pieces. It was written by what's his name, the playwright.
His name?
David Mamet.
Yeah, the playwright.
And who starred? Was it Nicholson?
Yeah.
Nicholson.
No, it was Nicholson.
Nicholson with a goofy nose.
Yeah.
Funny nose. Jaw. Yeah.
So there you go.
That's a great pick. Surprising, but a great pick.
Filmed in Los Angeles. He can identify a lot of locations: Griffith Park, Travel Town, a lot of other fun 80s Los Angeles locations.
I don't think I've seen it since it came out, and I'd never been to Los Angeles at the time. So now I have to watch it for that travel log alone.
There you go.
And I liked it back then. I mean, I remember seeing it in Manhattan and just, I thought, this is a good little black comedy. Yeah. Not great. But good.
But good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't mind it. Thought it was fun.
Diverting.
It's diverting. Indeed. Now, I'm very anxious to hear from Darren Dochterman because apparently he has one choice and one choice only. One ping only.
That's right.
So we're going to find out what his pick for Tuesday is.
Right after this message. No. My pick sort of jumped out at me, and it has not one, not two, not three, not
gosh.
four, but 5 Star Trek actors in it.
Wow.
And one that has a Star Trek connection to it. So it's 6 in all in this one movie. And I'm going to tell you what it is.
Please.
It's a classic. Millions of high schoolers see this every year. Instead of reading the book, it is 1960.
Mice and Men?
No, 1962's To Kill a Mockingbird.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gregory Peck. The world never seems as fresh and wonderful, as comforting and terrifying, as good and evil, as it does when seen through the eyes of a child. For a writer to capture that feeling is remarkable, and perhaps that is why one book in the last few years has been so warmly embraced by tens of millions of people. To Kill a Mockingbird, winner of the Pulitzer Prize and just about every other award a book can win. And now, happily, To Kill a Mockingbird becomes a motion picture, and its memorable characters come vividly alive. That Scout. Some people call her Jean Louise Finch, but she insists on Scout. And that's her brother, Jim. Just a boy until the day he learns there is evil in the world. Atticus! And Atticus Finch, the father, whose devotion to justice places him and his children in jeopardy. I've been appointed to defend Tom Robinson. Now that he's been charged, that's what I intend to do.
You taking his
You'll excuse me, Mr. Ewell.
What kind of man are you? You got children of your own?
Atticus, Jim says his watch is going to belong to him someday.
That's right.
What are you going to give me?
There's a pearl necklace. There's a ring that belonged to your mother. You want to tell us what really happened?
I got something to say. And if you ain't gonna do nothing about it, then you're just a bunch of lousy, yellow, stinking cowards.
Oh. Now, I'm going to tell you the actors that are in this. Of course, it was directed by Robert Mulligan. The writing credits Horton Foote, screenplay based on Harper Lee's novel. And in order of the listing here, Dill is played by an actor named John Mania, who is one of the kids in the Onlys group in Miri.
That's one.
Next is Frank Overton.
Ding.
Who is Elias Sandoval in This Side of Paradise. Next, we have Brock Peters,
Bing.
Who was Admiral Cartwright in a couple of the movies.
And Darth Vader.
Yes. Next, actually, that's more than 1, 2, 3.
That's 3.
Right. 4, 5. Yeah, no, there's 5.
You have 3 choices left.
Next is Paul Fix,
Bing.
Who played the doctor in Where No Man Has Gone Before. And then we have William Wyndham, Commodore Decker.
Schmidlap. Oh,
Commodore Schmidlap. Commodore Decker from the Doomsday Machine. And of course, we have Gregory Peck, who is the grandfather of the modern Spock, Ethan Peck.
It does. That sounds like a Broadway lyric.
Yes.
You know, the grandfather of a modern Spock. You know, it just sounds like a major general.
It's a thoroughly modern Spock.
I had no idea that Gregory Peck was his grandfather.
Yes,
you didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. It's the most interesting thing about him.
Oh
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's really fascinating. He's apparently a lovely guy.
He is. Yeah. But he wants the ship to go now. Good for him. Of course,
I think that whole cast apparently are just delightful people.
Yeah. I'm certain of it. But that doesn't make any never mind to me. This film obviously is a classic, and it has wonderful performances by Gregory Peck and the kids, and of course, a very early appearance of Robert Duvall, who goes
nothing
full,
to do with Star Trek,
who goes full acting in his role.
Acting.
I'm not gonna quote that movie. But it's great. The performances are awesome. The story is awesome. It is definitely a tale of kindness and humanity and growing up in a simpler time and trying to figure out where your alliances lay and what kind of a person you want to be.
You should have saved this for next week. Books. We watched the movie instead in high school week. Grapes of Wrath on Monday.
That's very funny.
Kill a mockingbird.
I did.
Wednesday is 1984.
Oh my gosh. The Great Gatsby twice.
I'll admit, I'm surprised. This was not what I expected you to pick, but I'll reveal my suspicions about the two of you on Friday.
Okay.
Look, if you haven't seen this film, it has a wonderful score by Elmer Bernstein. It is a classic in every sense of the word. And I'll just warn you, it's in black and white. So that's, back in those days.
Stop. This is not a show where we tell people this. If they can't watch a black and white movie, they're listening to the wrong podcast. You don't have to warn people. Black and white. They should be watching black and white movies all the time.
It's the stuff that films are made of.
Yeah, thank you. So, there you go.
So I watch it. You'll be happy you did.
Yeah, just an absolutely wonderful film. It's an essential part of.
And it has one of the only filmed Ham cosplays ever.
Ham Tyler?
No.
Ham cosplay.
Ham.
Okay. Well,
Scott has a ham costume.
Okay.
In the film.
Okay. Look, a classic film.
Absolutely.
A movie that's too good for this week.
It could be.
That's a great
couldn't
choice.
resist with all the Star Trek connections in it. Amazing.
Okay, maybe you guys can help me because I know nobody's going to pick this movie. There was a movie in the 60s that had a ton of Star Trek actors. The only reason I ever heard of it was Starlog used to always talk about it. Like Executive Suite or Executive
Suite. Yeah.
Oh, and it had like James Gregory and like a whole bunch of Star Trek actors in it. Not the Robert Wise film from the 50s.
No.
It was like Executive something or other, or I never seen it.
It's not ringing.
I don't know who was in it, but it was like a ton of Star Trek guest stars were in it.
What year was it?
I don't know. It was like the late 60s or something. Maybe it wasn't Executive. It was, but Starlog used to talk about it all the time.
Starlog would talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe somebody listening can help us out because I don't remember. I'm forgetting. So
he's forgetting.
So maybe you can help us out. Okay. Well, look, that's obviously a great pick, and we all love Brock Peters here from Deep Space Nine and
Frank Overton.
And Frank Overton. Who wouldn't love Frank Overton? So okay.
Layla Kalomi, that's it.
Yeah. But we all love Layla Kalomi.
We do.
Of course, if we're doing, 6 Degrees of Charlie Bronson week.
That's right.
Then we'll have Jill Ireland every day. Okay.
Like Charlie Bronson.
Stop it. The luminous Jill Ireland. Okay. So that brings us, now this is a very elegant week, classy week so far, right? And then we get to Wednesday and it's Ashley. Will it stay classy? I don't know. Or will we go in the toilet?
Will it be Night of the Leaps? Yeah, man. So this is a very complicated case. There are a lot of ins and outs. I thought long and hard about this one. In fact, the funny thing is, I probably thought longer and harder about what you guys were going to pick.
This sounds like a book report from a book you didn't read.
By the way, I've been totally wrong about Darren. Only half wrong about Steve.
Interesting.
And I'm pretty sure I know which direction Mark Altman is going to go. But if I'm wrong in all three cases,
you were so wrong. By the way,
for Friday,
I'm letting you know right now you are very wrong.
I'm not. I'm right. You don't know. Wait, yes, you do, but you don't. Anyway, as I was, trying to wrap my head around what the hell to pick for this week that would feel out of the box, but a movie that I dug, like what was it? What was that thing? And I realized that there is a movie. It's actually, as it turns out, it is one of my most beloved movies of all time. It's like, it's easy, like in my top. If it's not in my top 10, it's like somewhere in my top 20. It was a movie that snuck up on me. That I remember looking at the trailer and thinking that could be good or that could really suck. I didn't know if I was going to be into it because I didn't like that particular director's previous foray into genre films that were outside of a certain box.
And of course, we're talking about Roger Vadim's Pretty Maids all in a row.
Yes, exactly. And that's actually, you know what, though? That would count.
James Doohan and Billy Campbell.
So there you go. But not the outrageous O'Connor, the other one.
Yeah.
That gives me another idea for Friday. Now that I think about it. Anyway, I didn't have high hopes for this movie. In fact, I was offered a ticket to the premiere, and I passed it up. I had no idea that if I had gone to that premiere, I would be going to the premiere of a movie that I love deeply. Let's see how to approach it. Should I approach it through the actor, or just what you know what? I'll approach it through the actor. So the actor in question makes this a little bit more out of the box, because I didn't pick a movie that an actor that we would kind of consider like our very favorite, been part of our very favorite Star Trek shows. In fact, it's a Star Trek show I'm not a huge fan of, but I happen to love this actor, and he's done some incredibly brilliant costume and mocap work. Doug Jones, who plays Saru in Discovery, is absolutely fantastic as Abe Sapien in Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy.
Watch your hands and elbows.
Pardon?
Welcome to the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. There are things that go bump in the night, Agent Myers. And we are the ones who bump back. Hellboy.
Well, come on in. Meet the rest of the family.
Abraham Sapien.
Liz Schumann. It's a beautiful name.
Don't worry, Boy Scout. She'll take care of you.
These freaks, they give me the creeps.
Really?
Every time the media gets a look at him, they come running to me. I'm running out of lies.
If there's trouble, all us freaks have is each other.
What the hell is that?
Something big.
In the absence of light, darkness prevails. 60 years ago, they tried to destroy the world. They're back.
Master. Oh my God.
Behind this door, ancient evil.
Oh, well. Let me go in and say hi.
Are you gonna be okay?
How big can it be?
In 2004. Now, for those of you playing at home, David Hyde Pierce did an uncredited voiceover of that role. But even David Hyde Pierce was so offended by the reason for it that he refused to take credit or do press for the film. Because he was so impressed with what Doug Jones managed to do physically with his performance as this character. Hellboy is based on a comic book by Mike Mignola. The premise is, and Ron Perlman plays the lead character, Hellboy.
Also in Star Trek.
That's right. Is he?
He was in Star Trek Nemesis.
He is. He's in Nemesis.
Put it out of your mind. You forgot.
It's that one. Oh my God, we got a twofer. Okay. Ron Perlman plays Hellboy. Hellboy is a demon who is summoned. He's got a red right hand. It's basically a hammer. He, in the middle of World War II, by Hitler's obsession with the occult, and he ends up getting adopted by a character played by John Hurt, who is a scientist and an occult expert who is battling the Nazis. He raises him as his own son. He brings him into an organization called the BPRD, who specialize in these things, and they fight this secret underground war against occult threats for decades following. And the original Hellboy, the 2004 Hellboy, is about the reemergence of those forces that they originally faced back during World War II, and preventing them from calling forth a beast from the outer darkness and bringing on the apocalypse, as you do. But it's super fun. Guillermo del Toro directs it. I didn't have high hopes, not because of his earlier films like Kronos, or Devil's Backbone, which are quite great, but because I thought Blade 2 sucked hard. And I just didn't think that Del Toro had a film like this in him. But I loved Hellboy. It's the tone is just wonderful. It's got a great score by Marco Beltrami. It's quite funny. The action is great. The monsters are great. It's got a kind of a lovely, little character story in the heart of it. Essentially, Hellboy he's a teenager. He's a surly teenager trapped in the body of Ron Perlman playing a demon from hell. And it's about him working out like his own stunted development, his difficult relationship with his father, whom he loves, his difficult relationship with his girlfriend, played by Selma Blair, his difficult relationship with pretty much everyone except Abe Sapien, back to Doug Jones, who is basically a creature from the Black Lagoon, who was found back in the 1800s and the 1860s, and has obviously been around for quite a long time. And he loves to eat eggs just like Grogu. Anyway, I can't recommend this movie highly enough. I was not a huge fan of Hellboy 2, The Golden Army. I mean, there are things about it that I certainly admire, but I don't know that it was a satisfying experience for me as the original Hellboy. And you can just completely forget the Neil Marshall atrocity that was released a couple of years ago, because it is awful. It is like, what if an ass had an ass? It's like that much ass.
Oh.
So there you go. That's my review of Hellboy 2019.
Wow.
There you go.
Unexpected.
Yeah, I kind of avoided this movie also for probably the same reason, because I wasn't a particular fan I didn't really like Kronos or Mimic or Blade 2. I did really like The Devil's Backbone. I think Mark and I saw that at Telluride.
We did. We loved it.
It was terrific. But yeah, it was a few years before I got around to Hellboy, and I enjoyed it. It's very entertaining. I'd never read the comic though, so it was, I had no preconceptions coming into it.
Mignola has this amazing art style that the movie really captured, and I think that's just a testament to Del Toro as a director. He has just such he's very specific. He's very almost, I don't want to say he's artisanal, but he kind of is. Especially when it comes to his visuals. He has a very particular thing in mind, and he really, I think, wanted to capture what the feel of those comic books were.
Well, first, I
liked it too.
I want to congratulate Ashley on not picking Zombies of the Stratosphere. Hellboy is almost straight down the middle on this week. Mm-hmm. And Doug Jones is just a terrific, talented actor, big, obviously staple of genre films. And I mean, in a way, I'm surprised to see him show up on this week, because I don't really think of him as a Star Trek actor. But it's a great choice, because obviously Guillermo's Hellboy is certainly the best of that franchise.
And it was, by the way, it was at a time when people it wasn't like it's a superhero movie, it's a comic book movie, at a time that people were like, maybe, superheroes and comic books are a giant risk. And now we can't freaking get away from them.
No, this whole week is surprising. I mean, we started with a Kate Mulgrew picture, which was not, I was like, you saw these legendary figures in the Star Trek franchise. It's like, she's not the first person that comes to mind to me. And then, Brock Peters, et cetera, on Tuesday. Again, and then Doug Jones. It's like, I'm like, where are the big guns? Where are the big guns? Where's Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Leonard Nimoy? It's like, where's Patrick and Excalibur?
Why don't you name all of them?
What? Yeah, okay, so there you go.
Where's D. Kelly and Gunfight at OK Corral? It's like, come on.
And neither the Lupus.
So
we wanted to stay away from the Holy Trinity.
Okay. We want to stay away from the Holy Trinity. So, my pick will be Mariana Hill and Outlaw Josie Wales.
That's not a bad
no. That's a great movie. I love it. And it could be my pick. On any other, had you guys gone a little higher, I could go low. When you go high, I go low. But now you're going low and I'm going to go high. Mm-hmm. Not really. But last year we lost a wonderful actress, Nichelle Nichols.
Yep.
And, Nichelle, obviously we heard a lot, she wishes she had more to do on the show. We all wish she had more to do on the show. She was great with what she got to do. She was a valuable part of the Star Trek ensemble. She will forever be known as Uhura.
Or as Shatner says, Uhura.
The actress who plays Uhura. So I think in honor of this wonderful actress who we never really got a sense of her range, but we do in the 1974 blaxploitation classic, Truck Turner.
Hide your mamas. Big brother is coming. And he's coming on strong. Isaac Hayes, the big brother of soul, is making a new kind of music. And it's mean jive.
All right, y'all, let's move. If anybody asks you what happened, tell them you've been hit by a truck. Matt Truck Turner.
When he's hottest, he's the coolest.
Hey.
Could have brought me some flowers.
I got some beer.
When he's baddest.
What do you want for breakfast?
He's the best.
What do you think?
Every gun brother and sister is out to make the big hit.
I want that Truck Turner and I want him dead.
But he's out to get before he's got. Isaac Hayes as a skip tracer, a modern day bounty hunter, making a healthy living by making living unhealthy for cats who skip bail.
Gentlemen, this is my family. These all prime cut $238,000 worth of dynamite is Fort Knox in pennies. That's Taffy. Her clients call her Colonel Sanders because she's finger-licking good. The man who kills him gets my broads. Truck, they gonna kill you.
They're gonna have to do just that because they owe me. I'm gonna collect.
When he gets it on, the action takes off. Isaac Hayes, the magic name of music, winner of the Academy Award for his music in Shaft and scoring again in this one. Truck Turner from American International Pictures.
Yep. In which she plays a pimp named madam named Dorinda, who puts out a contract after,
so to speak,
on a he puts out a contract on Isaac Hayes, Truck Turner, and to say that this is dialogue that you would never say in Star Trek would be the understatement of the year. Let me just share with you some of what I can say on this all ages podcast. Now, all you whores, sit down. I want to talk to you. Anybody thinking about leaving here is going to find my left foot square up your ass. Do you understand that? Shut up, you junkie whore. I'm talking to you and all those two bitches that left. I can't even say the rest of this. And oh my God, what the hell do you think I'm running here? A chicken coop? Gentlemen, this is my family. These are all prime cuts. $238,000 worth of dynamite. It's Fort Knox and panties. Candy did $17,000 last year. This is all Nichelle Nichols.
Well, it's interesting that it's all dialogue that they cut out from the Gamesters of Triskelion.
Yeah.
Those are what the Klingons were saying in Star Trek 6. But I got all kidding aside, she's so good in this. Isaac Hayes is not particularly good. He got hired on the back of obviously doing the theme for Shaft. He was a big, he did the title song for this, and he wanted to have a career as an actor. He has charisma, but acting chops not so much. But Yaphet Kotto plays one of the gang bosses in this. He, of course, is great because he's great in everything. The interesting thing about this movie is it's directed by Jonathan Kaplan, the same Jonathan Kaplan who would later go on and do The Accused with Jodie Foster and have an interesting career. Originally, he was supposed to direct it with Robert Mitchum. And Isaac Hayes is not exactly Robert Mitchum type. And it's funny, when Mitchum dropped out, James Coburn was up to do it for a little bit.
Wow.
But then when the whole blaxploitation craze came in, they said, okay, we're gonna do this, and they ended up doing it with Isaac Hayes. And it's just a hoot. I mean, there's some great action, there's great music, and it's just a delight to watch Nichelle just let loose. And the expletives are flying fast and furious. And it's as far away from Uhura as you could possibly imagine. And it's so much fun. And, people who don't know her career outside, because unlike, somebody like Bill or Leonard, even George, who went off and did a lot of other stuff, Nichelle didn't do a ton of things, and Dee had a big career before McCoy.
Right.
But this is really, to me, like one of the highlights of, and Gene didn't even write it. Yeah, but really, really super fun. And I think, for people who like this kind of, cool, fun exploitation movies and like their Nichelle Nichols, they won't be disappointed with Truck Turner.
I kind of knew that you were going to pick this one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you've talked about it vociferously before.
You didn't think I was going to pick Robert Beltran and Eating Raoul?
Probably not.
No. Okay.
Well, you surprised me too. So I was 0 for 3.
I know what you all thought I was going to pick. Bill Shatner in his greatest screen role outside of Star Trek himself.
As Bill.
As Bill. In the beloved cult classic, Free Enterprise.
Or, White Comanche.
But I couldn't pick my own movie. That would be tacky.
Yeah.
It's like I can't say, well, my pick is Free Enterprise because it's really well written and it's just super fun. And
we ought to have a week of picking our own movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Monday is the Clone Wars. So I'll tell you guys what I thought you were each going to pick. I was almost metaphysically certain.
I'd like to know
these picks, and I don't know. I've never been more wrong. So, Steve, I got you half right. I got the Kate Mulgrew half.
Wow.
Really?
I thought you were going to go for Remo Williams' The Adventure Continues.
Ooh, interesting. That's more an Ashley pick, though.
I do enjoy that film. That didn't even make my list, but I like that movie. I watch it every couple of years. It's fun.
And I thought, Darren, because I was listening to one of our previous podcasts, and we were talking about Amadeus. And I thought, F. Murray Abraham. Okay.
That's it. Yeah. That's a good one.
Could have rocked me Amadeus.
Mark, I thought you were a shoo-in for picking The Searchers with Captain Pike himself.
Yeah, I know.
That's true.
I know. Can I tell you something? I didn't even think about The Searchers.
Right.
And that, but it's funny. I agree more with you than with me. Like, I think you're right. I think that it would be an obvious pick for me to pick The Searchers with Jeffrey Hunter. Yeah. Certainly more obvious than me picking The Greatest Story Ever Told. But which we all know is the original Star Trek. But you're totally right. Like, The Searchers should have been top of my list, and it's not even on my list. I mean, like, Dodgeball, a true underdog story with Shatner is higher than The Searchers, which there's something really wrong about. It's just wrong.
By the way, what's weird is when I was saying earlier at the top of the podcast about Shatner playing himself, I did not even for a second think about Free Enterprise, where he was literally playing himself.
Right.
Like, I was just thinking, as a character, he was playing. Like it's in fact, it almost makes me wish that I had picked Free Enterprise.
Yeah, but you know why we couldn't pick Free Enterprise? Because what would happen is people would listen to the podcast and say, "Oh my God, that sounds great. How can I watch it?" And then we have to answer, well, it's not on a Blu-ray and it's not out streaming, and well, we don't know what to tell you right now, and just maybe one day soon.
Send me an email. I have a disc of it somewhere here.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You know, maybe if you come to one of these conventions we're at, I may happen to have an extra DVD lying around.
Not the special edition, though.
No. It's funny. I was going to ask, because I tried to stay away also, I thought, from small supporting cast. Like I literally was thinking, do you do Godfather 2 and Mariana Hill?
Yes, and it was just, absolutely you do.
You think?
And you do True Grit with Kim Darby.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Wow. You could do that. But you know who I really would love, and maybe it's not a Friday pick, but I love James Gregory in Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Of course.
Versus, why
and then he's great
Manchurian candidate as Senator Iceland also.
Why isn't that a Friday pick?
Of
course it's a Friday pick. Absolutely.
Time After Time is the fire in which we burn.
That's right.
Time After Time with David Warner.
Freaking Clockwork Orange.
Yeah. The Clockwork Orange. Oh my God. Great pick.
Wait, hold on 1 second.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, Malcolm McDowell. I literally forgot about Generations. I'm like, there's nobody from Clockwork Orange who is in Star Trek.
2001, A Freaking Space Odyssey.
Oh yeah, well 2001, that's a great pick with Gary Lockwood. Yeah,
you know what would have been a terrible pick, and I didn't think about it, so it didn't become Wednesday.
What?
Search for Spock.
Caligula.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that's funny. That's funny. We'll save that for NSFW week,
right?
Because I think we're
not
do that
doing
next
NSFW week.
But yeah, we're doing like movies not to watch with your mom week. It has to have one really.
We already know what movies we should watch with our mom. Unfortunately, we lived it.
Movies not to watch with Mark's mom week.
Yeah. And we know Darren. Go ahead, Steve.
Because I came very close to picking one of two movies starring an actor who I've become friendly with over the years, and is just a lovely
name
man
dropper
and a great actor. I think we all know him, the great Jeffrey Combs.
Yes.
So I came close to picking The Frighteners or The Reanimator because he's such a lovely man, and there's terrific performances, really fun movies.
He's so good. From
Have
Beyond.
we ever picked Reanimator on the show?
No.
No.
Because you picked The Frighteners, Ashley, but we never picked Reanimator.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. We should think about that one.
Jeff.
I think we should seriously think about that.
Hellraiser with Andy Robinson.
That's true.
Hellraiser with Andy Robinson, although I think we picked Hellraiser once.
Yeah.
And I came very close to picking a movie it's a movie that I really love, but it's not an actor I love. It's and that's Stand By Me with Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton, which is I love.
Well,
that
and
movie.
I guess you could say Jerry O'Connell also because he's in that Lower Decks.
Oh,
that's true.
And I like Jerry O'Connell. Yeah. I've worked with him, and he's such a nice guy and a super talented actor. And I really, he's
movies from Star Trek we don't watch.
Well, then Doug Jones.
Jerry O'Connell was my first actor sighting when I came out to visit LA. Like for the very first time I came to visit Zach, we were on Sunset, like to go see our agent then, and we saw Jerry O'Connell. But I remember thinking he looks like he's on, day 5 of a 3-day bender. It was just like, oh wait, isn't that Jerry? Isn't that the guy from Sliders? Yep.
Well, I would definitely. I'm a big John Sturges fan, as you know, so I would be remiss if I didn't mention DeForest Kelley in Gunfight at OK Corral, which of course inspired the classic Star Trek episode, Spectre of the Gump.
Spectre of the Gump.
The Gump. Well, of course, the wonderful Terry Farrell in Back to School.
And Hellraiser 3.
Darren.
Terry Farrell is in Back to School.
Yes, sir.
Girlfriend.
She's the girlfriend in the blue
well, you would if
suit.
You didn't miss staff meetings because we talk about it all the time.
Oh my gosh.
She was in Back to School and she has great Rodney stories. Some of which she will tell publicly, others she won't. I think Back to School has to be certainly in contention for Friday.
Definitely.
The movie we love. It's never been on the show. I'll tell you another movie I think should be, but it has been on the show before, but Leonard Nimoy playing a logical, unemotional pod person in Phil Kaufman's Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Absolutely. It's a very strong
sensational
contender.
film.
Yeah.
And it has been, but it's been many years since we've had it on the show, and it's great.
They come from a dying world. They drift through the universe, pushed on by the solar winds. They adapt, and they survive. The function of all life is survival. Sleep. 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 From deep space. Sleep. The seed is planted. Sleep. Sleep. Terror grows.
Matthew!
Like the others.
Elizabeth, wake up! Get you when you sleep. Sit up!
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It's got no detail, no character. It's unformed.
All of a sudden, they're growing like parasites. Is it contagious? People are being duplicated.
How do you know my name? I didn't tell you my name.
Can't find anything in here that looks like a body. One side's nosebleed.
It looked right at me.
You're looking at it as if it was human. It was not human.
Now, the classic fear begins to grow.
We're being cornered.
In a modern masterpiece of science fiction.
They're barricading the street.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Get down!
Starring Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Leonard Nimoy. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. From deep space, the seed is planted. Terror grows.
And then, of course, Patrick Stewart in nearly all, not quite all, but nearly all the X-Men movies. And also, by the way, pretty fantastic in, he's Logan, great, but in Logan, exactly. It's like he manages to do a thing that very few actors manage to do. He created an iconic character in two different franchises, which, you don't get a lot of. And again, like in Logan, he was just awesome.
But I would
He's really great in Logan.
I would actually pick Patrick Stewart in L.A. Story.
Yes.
Yeah, but you picked LA Story before.
Yeah, I did. But, sue me.
Yeah.
Well, you could pick L.A. Confidential with James Cromwell.
That's true.
Or Zefram Cochrane.
Or Revenge of the Nerds with James Cromwell.
Or you could pick Midway with Glenn Corbett.
Ooh, yeah.
Which one?
Wow. Midway with Glenn
Corbett. Since you're all hung up on Zefram Cochrane movies.
We're not actually.
Well, then there's the Tom Hardy route where you've got your Mad Max Fury Road or Inception.
But here's what I think. That is completely legitimate, right? Yeah. But I we're doing 6 degrees of Star Trek, and we don't have the great Star Trek actors. We're going with a lot of the second tier people. Like for Friday, let's find a
movie guest stars.
Let's find a Bill or a Patrick or a Leonard. Let's finish with a strong Star Trek person. Let's not go with like some third rate tier Seven Dwarf somewhere.
Life Force isn't a bad one, Ash.
We've done Life Force on Friday before for Guilty Pleasures.
Shit.
But I wouldn't be advised to do it again.
You mentioned Excalibur before.
Yeah.
He's got kind of it's obviously not a gigantic role in Excalibur.
Excalibur.
But he has the greatest speech in it. Yeah. When he's fighting against Nigel's King Arthur, and then King Arthur spares his life, right? With Excalibur, right? At the end. And then he says, "Man, who would dare do?" He does this whole thing where he accepts him as his king because he's fighting against Arthur. And then he has that great thing where he kneels down and he accepts him because I think, isn't it that scene where he says, you're right. You're this great knight and I'm nobody. And he kneels before him and gives him like the sword.
Right.
And then Patrick does this complete 180.
Yeah.
And then accepts him as the king. And I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember this is great. Right. And Darren's doing it with the two hands and he knights him and any man who would, I forget the whole scene, but it's great.
And wasn't he also in Lady Jane?
I don't remember.
That was Helena Bonham Carter.
I think that was the ghost from Sub Rosa. Duncan Rieger. He was in V.
Duncan Rieger. Well, there's another one. Gates McFadden in The Hunt for Red October.
Oh yes, of course. In
all 3 minutes she was in
one scene with a fake British accent.
One scene only.
It sort of goes back and forth from American accent to British accent. It's really quite fun to watch.
A very Fisher-esque performance.
Yes, indeed. That's good.
And of course, there's the Plummer family, Amanda Plummer in Pulp Fiction, after having recently finished her work on season 3 of Picard.
Well,
and Christopher Plummer, of course.
The Sound of Music, for crying out loud. Christopher Plummer.
Yeah. The Sound of Shakespeare.
You know what? Time After Time has 2 actors. It has Malcolm McDowell.
It has Malcolm in the middle and David Warner.
Or did I say that?
But but you only talked about Malcolm.
You're right. David Warner, too.
Yeah.
We picked Time After Time, but that would not be a bad pick.
I don't think it's a bad pick after all.
Yeah. And of course, Nick Meyer directed it. Who's another Star Trek.
That's right. Another Star Trek connection. Nick
Meyer. Just like the Rainbow Connection, but not.
Except
I guess
different.
that the Rainbow Connection is when the Enterprise goes to warp.
Yeah.
Right. But only in motion picture.
Yes, only in the motion picture.
Although there is rainbows in the other movies, but they're not as good.
They're not as rainbowy.
Well, don't forget Ghost, co-starring Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Or Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers with Carl Urban, Dr. McCoy.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're not over my dead body. We put somebody from the Kelvin universe in Star Trek Week.
Supremacy?
No, JJ.
No peace in our time.
Hell or High Water, which I believe Ashley picked before with Chris Pine, but also a JJ.
Right.
We're doing real Star Trek on this show.
And of course, we picked it, or it's been picked before on the show, Independence Day with Brent Spiner.
Brent Spiner, yep, absolutely. A movie we all love.
And Jeff Goldblum, who should have played Spock in the new movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Well, look, I think we have a couple of great picks. Time After Time, one of them, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, is another. And then we also had
Excalibur.
Excalibur, right? Or Shatner in Judgment at Nuremberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a big role. It's not a showy role, but it's a great movie.
Shatner in The Devil's Reign.
Look, there's so many movies, Bill Shatner movies like Bloody Mama and all this stuff. Or throw Bloody Mama from a train.
I mean,
I'm kind of leaning toward Time After Time myself because it has a triumvirate in there.
What do you guys think, Ashley?
I love the Time After Time pick. I am also intrigued by the Invasion of the Body Snatchers pick because it's
freaking Nimoy.
So it has Nimzo.
I got to tell you, I'm leaning towards I'm leaning towards Body Snatchers because I feel like we need to ground it. It's like, how you need to ground electricity. Like we need to ground it with a major Star Trek actor. And Leonard is so great in that movie, and it's Phil Kaufman who had a brief association with Star Trek.
That's true. Yeah,
and he's playing this Spock-like role, but he's not Spock, and it's just it's one of the great sci-fi movies.
It's a movie that needs to be seen more.
And at that time, he was not Spock. And he wrote a book.
Right. He was not Spock. And I love Time After Time, but I think we will have a chance to begin. Plus, the ultimate Time After Time.
Persis Kambata.
You're not wrong.
Or Nighthawks. That's great. But I think the thing about Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is good, is it gives us one of the big three, one of the big Star Trek actors. Same way we could pick Patrick and Excalibur or something, rather than going with Malcolm McDowell and David Warner, who
they were guest villains in a movie versus somebody who's played a role.
Oh, David Warner was here.
And Shatner does all these great cameos in Dodgeball and Miss Congeniality, but I don't think that's a Friday pick.
Yeah, no.
And Showtime, with Eddie Murphy and Robert De Niro, but they're fun little bit parts, Airplane 2. I mean, these are all goofy kind of like he's great in them, but they shouldn't be Friday.
Well, and Leslie Nielsen, who was the first captain of the Starfleet in Forbidden Planet.
Yeah. I think The Searchers was also a great pick that actually picked for me.
We're in an entirely different week, by the way.
Yeah. And then, we briefly talked about Pretty Maids All in a Row, which Gene Roddenberry wrote and produced, which featured James Doohan and William Campbell, which is an awful movie, but on
and it didn't necessarily
Tarantino's
feature
top
them.
10 films of all time list. And I think that could have easily made our guilty pleasures, except I don't know how much of a pleasure it is.
It's not a pleasure.
We'll find a week for it.
It's not good.
It's not good. We'll find a week for it, but not on my ship, mister.
Let's go with the Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah, I mean that was my 10th birthday movie, mainly because Leonard Nimoy was in it.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, we have to pick it. And it was funny because you were walking down a train track and you came across a dead body, but you had to keep going because there was.
Oh my God!
How to make the screening. And the lovely, luminous Brooke Adams is in it, who we all love in that. It was Brooke Adams. Yeah. And just Veronica Cartwright from Alien. Yeah. And of course, Donald Sutherland is fantastic in that movie. It's just so good.
Big shout out to Donald Sutherland.
Yeah, let's just say, if you have not watched the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers from
the first 1978,
remake. The first remake, right? Because it was the original, obviously, with Kevin McCarthy, which is also terrific. Mm-hmm. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is from 78, which is amazing. And then it was remade by Abel Ferrara. And it was almost my pick for guilty pleasures, by the way, FYI, last week. The 90s version, Abel Ferrara, which is really not very good, but I sort of enjoy it anyway. But the one we're talking about, the Phil Kaufman, is just sensational.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, we agreed?
Yeah.
Yes.
So let it be
written.
So let it be done. It now lives amongst the stars. What are those lyrics again, Darren?
I'm not singing the song.
Come on.
I charge more to sing the song.
Oh, jeez. Okay,
got to double my rate.
Well, gentlemen, can you remind me what we'll be watching on this very special 6 Degrees of Star Trek Week? It is special, of course, because it's a crossover episode between the 4:30 movie and Inglorious Treksperts. And what was your favorite crossover? You never told me. Back in the day on TV when two shows you liked.
Oh, Simon and Simon and Magnum PI.
Ah,
wow.
Good choice. What about you, Steve?
Boy.
Favorite crossover episode for Saturday night?
I don't know.
Mork and Mindy. No.
Chips and
well,
Chips.
yeah,
we'll come back to you.
When Mork was on Happy Days, I mean, that was more of a introducing the character to spin off.
That was a premiere,
not really a crossover. Yes. Yeah.
What about you, Darren?
I have to say, when the Green Hornet showed up on Batman.
Oh,
there, low-lying fruit. That was an easy one. I totally agree with you. That was the best. And it was also called A Piece of the Action.
That's right.
So great. And it had Roger Carmel in it.
That's correct. Another connection.
What a perfect way to end this week. So if you've watched all the movies, we encourage you on the weekend to watch the Great Green Hornet crossover with Batman, which is a terrific episode.
But continue with our selections.
Oh, yeah. So on Monday, Steve Melching.
On Monday, The Night Was Moist. Kate Mulgrew stars in Throw Mama from the Train with Danny DeVito and Billy Crystal.
On Tuesday,
1962's black and white opus, It's a Sin to Kill a Mockingbird.
Ashley Miller on Wednesday. What are we watching?
On Wednesday, Ron Perlman plays a 65-year-old teenager whose hand is very large in Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy.
On Thursday, Nichelle Nichols keeps on trucking with Truck Turner. And on Friday, I don't know what happened to back to school. We were so close to back to school and it somehow fell off the map. But Friday, it's Leonard Nimoy in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That's a hell of a week.
It is.
That's a great week. I love it.
Great movies and some other great movies.
Yeah, I'm sure our listeners will also have a fair amount of their own picks, which you can share on Twitter at 430 Movie Podcast, Facebook at 430 Movie, or on Instagram at the 430 Movie. And for our Inglorious Trexperts listeners, you can visit us at Inglorious Trek on Twitter, Inglorious Trexperts on Instagram, and Inglorious Trexperts on Facebook. A lot of ways to reach out. And if you're old-fashioned, you want to use emails, you can email us at trexpertsplus@gmail.com. And, of course, if you like the show, please rate us 5 stars
on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
We want to thank Mark Rivera for making us sound so good. And, of course, Peter Holmstrom for his help on this. And a big thank you to everyone for joining us this week for another exciting episode of the 430 Movie. And on behalf of Stephen Melching, Ashley Obermiller, Darren Dochterman, and myself, Mark A. Altman, save us the aisle seat. And until next week, Eyewitness News starts now. But not with Tucker Carlson or Don Lemon. Dun, 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 dun.